For centuries, the mystery and beauty of the underwater world has fascinated the human race. This strange and wonderful world provides a glimpse at new plant and animal life not found on the surface of our Earth. Today, more than ever, we continue our quest for adventure in this new world. We yearn to feel the weightlessness in water, to swim with the animals of the sea, and to admire the beauty of the ocean reefs. Scuba equipment allows humans to adapt to water, enabling them to see, breathe, and swim in the underwater world. Recreational diving as we know it today was made possible by the invention of the self-contained underwater breathing apparatus, the scuba unit. Originally known as the aqualung, the first scuba system was invented by diving pioneer Jacques Cousteau and engineer Émile Gagnon during World War II. Early equipment was minimal and provided little comfort or safety to the diver. In contrast, modern equipment is designed through years of research and testing to bring the sport diver the most sophisticated products available. All the equipment needed for scuba diving can be found at SSI dealers throughout the world. Scuba Schools International affiliated dealers are specialized stores that provide quality equipment, training, and service to scuba divers like you. They are experts that you can trust for all of your diving, equipment, and travel needs. Each piece of scuba diving equipment serves a different and vital function. When combined, they provide life support and comfort underwater. In this section, you'll be introduced to the total diving system and why each piece of equipment it contains is necessary for your adventures in the underwater world. The first subsystem is the snorkeling system, which contains the mask, snorkel, fins, booties, and mesh equipment bag. Because the human eye is designed to function in air, not water, we must bring a pocket of air with us underwater in order to see comfortably. In addition to covering the eyes, the mask also covers the nose to allow the diver to gently exhale and stop the mask from squeezing against the face when diving below the surface. There are many types of masks available, but all perform the same basic function. Professional quality masks have a lens made from tempered or safety glass, and nose or finger pockets for equalizing ear and sinus pressure. The strap should be adjustable and have a positive locking device. The most important consideration with a mask is fit. First, tip your head back and lay the mask on your face. The entire skirt should touch your face evenly. Inhale gently. You should be able to keep the mask in place without holding it. When putting on the mask, place it on your face first, and then pull the strap over your head. Be sure the strap rests comfortably on the crown of your head, and that no hair is caught in the mask seal. The snorkel allows the diver to swim and breathe on the surface while the face remains submerged. Select a snorkel that is easy to clear of water and feels comfortable when you bite down on it. A poorly fitting mouthpiece can be extremely uncomfortable. The snorkel is attached to the left side of the mask strap with a snorkel keeper, so you can adjust the position of the snorkel. When using the snorkel, it should point straight up when you are looking down. This position provides the diver with a relaxed and constant view of the beauty below. Fins allow the diver to move through the water with a minimum of effort, substantially increasing the power of the bare foot. There are two types of scuba fins, full foot and open heel. Open heel fins are designed for scuba diving and come in a variety of styles to fit divers' personal needs. The open heel model is adjustable for a close, comfortable fit and is most commonly worn with neoprene booties. Fins that are too tight will cause cramping. Loose-fitting fins may cause blisters or fall off while kicking. The second component of the total diving system is the exposure system. On land, we wear layers of clothing to protect us from heat loss. Underwater, we lose body heat 25 times faster than we do in air, and a temperature that would be comfortable on land is uncomfortably cold underwater. Exposure suits are our clothing underwater and are designed to help slow heat loss. Even if the water is as warm as the air, some type of suit should still be worn for protection from the sun, stings, and scrapes. Dive skins, which are made from various fabrics, are excellent alternatives for warmer waters. The most common type of underwater exposure protection is the closed-cell neoprene wetsuit. Neoprene comes in thicknesses from 1/2 to 7 millimeters. A thicker suit will provide more protection in cooler waters. It's important to understand that while there are many types of wetsuits available on the market, divers need exposure suits designed for diving underwater. Divers' exposure suits come in a variety of styles. One-piece jumpsuits are comfortable and easy to put on, while two-piece suits can be layered for colder waters or worn separately in warmer waters. A hood can also be added for extra warmth. The greatest heat loss areas are your head, torso, underarms, and groin. So by adding protection in these areas, body warmth can be maintained. The most important feature in an exposure suit is proper fit. Your suit should fit like a second skin, long enough in the arms, legs, and body. Your SSI instructor can help you select the right type of diver's exposure suit to fit your personal needs and the type of diving you'll be doing. Dry suits allow divers to explore extremely cold waters by providing increased thermal protection. During your dry suit specialty course, you will learn the correct procedures for dry suit diving. Most exposure suits increase your buoyancy, which may make you float. This is called positive buoyancy. To counteract this buoyancy, divers use a weight system. There are two main types of weight systems: the weight-integrated buoyancy compensator and the weight belt. Both systems have a quick-release mechanism that allows the diver to ditch the weight in the event that immediate positive buoyancy is required. Such instances will be covered later in this program. The weights themselves come in the form of standard lead, coated lead, or as lead shot. The type of diving you'll be doing and your buoyancy characteristics will be factors when choosing a weight-integrated BC. Ask your SSI instructor or dealer to assist you in choosing a weight-integrated BC, and be sure to follow your BC manufacturer's instructions when placing weights into your integrated BC. If you're using a weight belt, make sure the weights are evenly distributed on your hips and slightly forward for balance. The belt should be cinched tightly over your suit to avoid the possibility of loss underwater. The third component of the total diving system is the air delivery system. The air delivery system is your life support system that supplies you with air at the proper breathing pressure. It consists of the cylinder, regulator, first and second stage, and the alternate air source. The cylinder allows divers to take an air supply with them underwater. It's filled with dry, filtered air that's compressed, so you can carry a large amount in a relatively small space. Cylinders are made from either aluminum or steel and come in various sizes. The size should be appropriate for the size of the diver and the type of diving. The type of cylinder used also plays a major role in your buoyancy throughout your dive. Cylinders are equipped with a valve that allows it to be filled and the air to be turned on and off. Your cylinder should also have a rubber or plastic boot, which provides balance for a standing cylinder. The second part of the air delivery system is the regulator. The first stage reduces the cylinder's high-pressure air down to a lower or working pressure. The second stage provides air at a breathable rate equal to the surrounding water pressure. The second stage regulator has a purge button that allows the mouthpiece to be cleared of water. The exhaust valve allows the exhaled air to escape into the surrounding water. In addition to this primary second stage, the air delivery system should include some type of alternate air source, a backup breathing system which comes in various designs. The alternate air source is simply another second stage that connects to your first stage. The inflator integrated air source is a second stage which is part of the BC inflator system. Another option is a small independent breathing system. These systems are equipped with their own air delivery system and are totally independent from the scuba unit. Your SSI dealer and instructor can help you select the alternate air source that best meets your needs. Just as it's necessary to monitor your fuel and speed when driving a car, a scuba diver needs to monitor depth, time, air supply, and direction while underwater. This is why the information system is the fourth component of the total diving system. Just like the dash of a car, the information system is a combination of information gauges which can be contained in a unit called a console, or are combined in one unit called a dive computer. Today, the modern information system of choice is the dive computer, which provides and records the same information as the gauges. However, they're generally more accurate and much easier to use for planning and diving. Whichever type of information system you use, computerized or analog, it needs to be used on every dive to monitor the vital information of your dive to increase your awareness and enjoyment. The most important instrument in your information system is the submersible pressure gauge, termed the SPG. The SPG allows the diver to monitor how much air remains in the cylinder. The depth gauge allows the diver to monitor how deep he or she is diving. An important feature is a maximum depth indicator, which lets the diver keep track of the deepest point reached during the dive. Tracking time is essential during a dive. Various timing devices such as computers, dive timers, and wristwatches help the diver keep track of both the current time and the elapsed time during a dive. As stated earlier, diving computers combine the function of the depth gauge, timing device, and submersible pressure gauge on some models into one computerized unit, which also monitors the theoretical nitrogen level in your body. Not only do computers make planning and diving more convenient, they constantly provide the diver with up-to-the-minute information about the dive and automatically record deepest depth, dive time, and various other statistics. A greater amount of comfort can be added to a dive with a compass. Compasses allow divers to navigate underwater when natural navigation is not possible. SSI recommends that a compass be used on every dive. It allows the diver to return underwater to an exit point. For planning and recording your dives, an information system is only the beginning. It also requires the fifth component of the total diving system, the SSI Total Dive Log. The SSI Total Dive Log is designed so that divers can efficiently plan and prepare for their dive and record the experience and dive statistics following the dive. The Total Dive Log also has convenient tabs and pages to record your progress as a student and an experienced diver. You can record all of your memories and keep track of your levels of experience as you log your dives throughout your lifetime of diving. The sixth component of the total diving system is the buoyancy control system. The buoyancy compensator, commonly referred to as the BC, allows the diver to float on the surface or swim effortlessly at depth by adding or subtracting air as needed. Together, the weight system and BC are used to help you control your descent. If properly weighted, you will easily sink with no air in your BC and be able to float effortlessly on the surface with your BC inflated. Neutral buoyancy is established when the perfect amount of air is in the BC, suspending the diver weightlessly. Maintaining neutral buoyancy throughout the dive conserves energy and keeps the diver hovering above the reef rather than on it. There are many types of BCs you can choose from. Some styles distribute the air around the bottom of the BC and under the arms to keep the diver evenly supported, while others center the air around the back, reducing the bulk up front to allow for greater movement and comfort. Though there are vests designed specifically for snorkeling, your BC may be used for surface flotation when snorkeling as well. All BCs should be equipped with an oral inflator, a power inflator, and a dump valve. The power inflator allows you to fill the BC with air from the cylinder and is an invaluable safety feature. Your SSI dealer or instructor will help you choose a personalized buoyancy control system based on your comfort and the type of diving you'll be doing. Up to this point, we've discussed the necessary pieces of equipment for scuba diving. However, there are some additional accessories that can enhance your experience, adding to your comfort and enjoyment. Ask your SSI dealer or instructor for advice on what accessories they recommend. Because of the quantity of equipment involved in diving, special diver's luggage has been designed to protect and carry your equipment. Small padded bags will protect your regulator and consoles, while mesh bags can be used to carry wet equipment. Diver's luggage, or large durable luggage with built-in wheels, is used for traveling and is a good place to store equipment when not in use. It's hard for boaters to see divers at the surface, and would be impossible to know divers are underwater if not for the diver's flag. There are two kinds of diver's flags in use. The red flag is the most common in the U.S. The blue alpha flag is only flown in international and inland navigable waterways. When flown, either flag indicates, "Beware, divers are below." A plastic whistle or other signaling device is often attached to the BC for communication. The sound of these devices carry farther than the sound of your voice and takes considerably less energy. An inflatable signaling device can also be carried in your BC pocket for use on the surface. These devices allow you to signal for help should you require assistance from the boat or shore. The chemical glow light, or reusable cylinder light, are used by night divers. By attaching the light to your cylinder, you and your buddy can keep track of each other at night. A more common illuminating device is the standard or rechargeable underwater light. These waterproof flashlights come in various sizes and levels of brightness. The diver's tool is a general-purpose item that can be used for prying, cutting, or even as a hammer. The tool should be made of a non-corrosive metal and should be carried in a sheath that can be attached to the diver, the BC, or the console. It would be a shame to call off a dive because of a broken mask or fin strap. A small kit containing spare parts and tools should be taken along. These extra buckles, straps, batteries, and repair items may save your dive. Your SSI dealer can help you assemble a Save-A-Dive kit for your own equipment. In this section, we covered the equipment which makes up the total diving system and is necessary for you to enjoy the underwater world comfortably. In the next section, using your diving equipment, we'll discuss how to use each component discussed here and how they all work together to form a complete and total diving system. In the first video, you discovered the basic pieces of equipment in the total diving system. In this video, we'll look at how to use the components of your total diving system. We'll start with the snorkeling system. Begin your snorkeling experience by putting on and adjusting your equipment. Your exposure suit goes on first. When putting on your wetsuit, start with the pants. Adjust the suit around your ankles, then slowly roll it up. Make sure the crotch fits comfortably. When you put on the top, adjust the suit around your wrist one arm at a time, and slowly pull it on. The armhole should fit comfortably, and there shouldn't be any confinement across the shoulders. Any bulges or pressure spots where the suit is stretched too much may cause discomfort and affect your dive. At this time, place your weight belt around your waist and secure it. Put on your mask and snorkel as described in Section 1. By applying a commercial defogging solution to your mask, it will stay clearer while underwater. Using the Figure 4 method, place your fins on your feet and adjust them so they're snug but not too tight. The Figure 4 method may be performed sitting or standing with the assistance of your buddy. Once your equipment is on and properly adjusted, you're ready to enter the water. The environmental conditions for the area will dictate which entry to use. The controlled seated entry is the easiest method and should be used when conditions permit. When entering off a diving platform, the step-in or giant stride entry works best. All you need to do is simply step into the water. When diving from an elevated dock or boat, the feet first entry is generally used. Just keep your legs together so the fins can smooth your entry. If you're entering from the shore under calm conditions, keep your mask in place and carry your fins. Once you and your buddy are in waist-deep water, put on your fins, then swim out. In surf, you and your buddy should support each other, and with the fins already on, shuffle backwards or sideways. Once the water is deep enough, turn around and swim out. With any entry, keep enough air in your BC so you can float on the surface. Have your snorkel in place, and cover your mask so it isn't lost on impact. This way you'll be able to see, breathe, and float the minute you enter the water. As you explore what's beneath the surface, water may occasionally enter your mask. The easiest way to clear your mask is simply to resurface and drain it. The same goes for the snorkel. Many snorkels are equipped with self-draining valves, which aid in clearing. When clearing a snorkel, the popping method works well. A quick, forceful exhalation will cause the water to pop out. There is another method called expansion. As you approach the surface, tilt your head back so that the tube is pointing down. By exhaling a small puff of air on ascent, the air will expand, forcing the water out of the snorkel. Fins allow the diver to swim through the water at a relaxed, even pace. By learning various fin kicks, you can switch from one method to another as you tire. The most often used fin kick is a modified swimmer's flutter kick. Keep your legs elongated, kicking from the hips and ankles, not the knees. With the dolphin kick, keep both legs together while moving in a wave-like motion through the water. Depending on the style of fin you're using, you may need to modify your kick. Consult your SSI instructor about the best kick to use for your style of fin. On the surface, you can turn over and swim on your back. But be sure to watch where you're going, or you can lose your direction. In order to explore the beauty below, you must learn to descend below the surface. The weight belt and BC are used to help you descend. If properly weighted, you will sink easily with no air in your BC, and be able to float effortlessly with your BC inflated. The primary method of descent is the head-first surface dive. By bending at the waist and lifting your legs to a vertical position, you can let the weight of your legs help force you below the surface. Once your fins are below the water level, you can kick down to a lower depth. The feet-first dive can be used in confined areas. Start in a vertical position and use the force of your arms and legs to propel you below the water. Once you're underwater, tuck, roll forward, and swim to your desired depth. As you swim deeper, you may feel pressure in your ears. To relieve the pressure, you must equalize the pressure. Simply hold your nose and blow gently. If pain occurs, do not continue to descend. Instead, ascend a little and equalize again. When it comes time to ascend, there are a few safety points you should follow. As you surface, look up and extend your left hand while watching for obstructions above. Once you reach the surface, lay out and clear your snorkel. Leave your mask in place and, if you need to, inflate your vest or BC so you can float comfortably without the need to tread water. In calm water, you can simply rest while you orally inflate your vest. However, in rough water, you may need to use the bobbing method. With bobbing, you rise above and sink slightly below the surface as you inflate your vest. As you kick above the surface, inhale. As you sink, exhale into the inflator hose. Continue until you have enough air in your vest to float. Whenever you tread water in a vertical position, make sure that you're not kicking the reef or any marine life. Be aware of the extra length your fins add to your legs. When you're tired, cold, or ready to stop, it's time to exit. Use the easiest method for your environmental conditions. When diving from a boat, you may be instructed on what exit to use. If you're diving from shore, the easiest method is to let the waves carry you in. Swim beyond the surf line if necessary into waist-deep water. Stand up, remove your fins, and walk into shore. If water conditions are harsh, you may need to crawl up the shore until it's easier to stand up. Understanding the snorkeling skills and your snorkeling system is the first step to becoming a proficient scuba diver. Snorkeling gives you the chance to become familiar with the basic equipment and comfortable with the basic water skills before you begin your scuba diving training. Plus, many snorkeling skills such as fin kicks, surface swimming, and entries and exits are transferable to scuba diving. The first step in scuba diving equipment assembly is preparation. Once your mask, fins, snorkel and weight system are properly adjusted, you can assemble the scuba unit itself. First, check the O-ring to make sure it's in place and neither cracked nor broken. Next, place the BC on the cylinder with the O-ring facing the back of the BC. Make sure it's at the proper height on the cylinder. Adjust the cylinder retaining band and cinch tightly. Next, lift the BC by the straps and retaining band to make sure it is fully secured. Now, attach the regulator. With the cylinder positioned in front of you, hold the primary second stage in your right hand and the first stage in your left hand, and connect the yoke to the cylinder valve. This will ensure that your primary regulator hangs over your right shoulder. Tighten the yoke screw until it is snug, but not so tight that it will damage the O-ring. Then, connect the power inflator hose to the BC, making sure it's secure. Last, exhale first and then gently inhale from both second stages. It should be easy to exhale and difficult to inhale. If you can inhale air, there is a leak in the system. When you turn on the cylinder, open the valve carefully. Then continue until it is fully open. Next, check the submersible pressure gauge to make sure it's working and that your cylinder is full. Again, gently breathe off your second stage to make sure air is flowing to it. Do the same with your alternate air source. The last step is to check the power inflator to make sure it inflates and deflates without sticking. If everything is in working order, secure the unit while you dress. Now you and your buddy are ready to put your equipment on. Use the least strenuous method for putting on the scuba unit. Onto a support, then simply sit down and put it on. If the water conditions permit, you can also put the unit on once you've entered the water. Simply sit on the cylinder and then slip your arms through the BC jacket. Once you are ready to enter, do a last-minute check with your buddy to make sure everything is adjusted and working properly. Your weight belt should not be covered by your BC. Your hoses shouldn't be caught or tangled, and the air must be turned on. Last, put on your mask, snorkel, and fins. Scuba entries are similar to snorkeling entries, but the weight of the scuba equipment makes balance more difficult. Be careful. Enter with adequate air in your BC so you can float, while holding your mask and second stage so they aren't lost when entering the water. Because the scuba diver is completely submerged in water, it's likely that some water will enter the second stage regulator or mask. This is not a problem. The water is easily cleared. Should your second stage come out of your mouth during your dive, you'll need to retrieve it and replace it. One method is to swing your right arm back while leaning on your right side. Hook the hose and then grab the mouthpiece. The other method is to reach back with your right arm until you feel the cylinder valve. Follow the hose down until you reach the mouthpiece. Once the second stage leaves your mouth, it fills with water, so you'll need to clear it of water before you inhale. The two methods for clearing the second stage are blowing and purging. Blowing is the preferred method. Just blow air through your mouthpiece, and the water will vent out. With purging, you clear the second stage with air from the cylinder. Lightly press the purge valve while putting the second stage back in your mouth, being careful not to push the purge button too hard. Another potential problem is water in your mask. You can comfortably dive with some water in your mask. However, a dry airspace is nicer and easier on your eyes. The easiest way to clear your mask is to gently press on the top of your mask with one or both hands and exhale through your nose. Look up. The water will come out of the bottom of your mask. It may take more than one try to clear all the water. When assisting your buddy, let them know you are going to help before doing so. He or she may prefer to fix the problem without your help. When it comes time for your exit, the procedures will be similar to snorkeling, except that exiting with scuba will be more awkward, especially when you're tired. No matter which method you use, keep your mask in place so you can see, your snorkel or second stage in place so you can breathe, and keep enough air in your BC so you can float. This will ensure that you stay in control until you are safely out of the water. When disassembling your unit, turn the air off and make sure both second stages are purged before attempting to remove the first stage. Replace the dust cap to keep your first stage free of contaminants. Last, remove the BC and empty it of water. Equipment malfunction rarely occurs due to defect, but is usually caused by improper maintenance. Ask your SSI dealer or instructor about the SSI Equipment Service Program, which will help keep your equipment operating correctly. You should rinse your equipment in clean, fresh water as soon as possible after your dive. Sand, salt, mud, and debris can damage your equipment. Your mask, fins, and snorkel are easily cared for, only requiring a rinse in fresh water. Your exposure suit should also be rinsed out in fresh water with wetsuit shampoo and hung on a wetsuit hanger. Drain the BC of water, then rinse it inside and out with clean, fresh water. To rinse the inside, fill it about 1/3 full, then inflate. Slosh the water, making sure it gets in all areas of the BC. Drain the water by inverting the jacket and holding the inflator hose down with the oral inflator open. When rinsing your second stage mouthpiece, be careful not to press the purge button. This can allow water into the hose and cause damage to the system. You should also rinse your diving instruments to remove any salt and debris. When storing the BC, keep it in a dry, cool area hung on a BC hanger. Leave it half full of air to protect the BC and keep the insides from sticking together. When storing the regulator and console, smoothly wind the hoses into a zippered regulator bag. The bag will protect them and keep dust away. Hose protectors will prevent kinks that lead to weak spots in hoses. To protect your investment, for your safety, and to maintain your manufacturer's warranty, your equipment should be serviced on at least an annual basis. Talk to your SSI dealer about the SSI Equipment Service Program, which makes it easy for you to properly maintain your equipment. The foremost concern in caring for your cylinder is keeping out moisture. Store it with some air left inside and with the valve tightly closed. Have your cylinder visually inspected annually by your SSI dealer. This inspection will detect any rust, corrosion, or contaminants. Your cylinder should also be hydrostatically tested in accordance with the manufacturer's recommendation and as required by law. Air stations will not fill your cylinder unless it has passed a current visual inspection and hydrostatic test. Scuba diving is an equipment-intensive sport. Your comfort, safety, and enjoyment underwater depends on your ability to effectively use the total diving system. Each piece serves a vital function to the diver while underwater, so you should not dive without all of the necessary equipment. From time to time, simple maintenance procedures are required while on dive excursions. In the Equipment Techniques Specialty course, you learn how to perform simple maintenance and make your investment last longer. Your equipment is your partner underwater. When you become proficient with your equipment, you will truly begin to relax and enjoy the underwater world. Advances in equipment and training techniques have come a long way since the beginning of scuba diving as we know it. So far, in fact, that almost anyone who is comfortable in the water can enjoy the spectacular underwater world. Though this doesn't relieve divers of certain responsibilities. The water is an unfamiliar, new environment with demands all its own. Only divers who are reasonably fit and in complete control of their mental and physical capabilities can be counted as responsible divers. Divers should be well rested and feel good before diving. Never dive when you're sick, including seasick. Obviously, alcohol or other drugs impair judgment and reaction times, which are critical for safety underwater. Remember, never drink and dive. If you're unsure of your physical condition, get a medical checkup before diving. When scuba diving, divers are not only experiencing a new set of sensations, they are also subjecting themselves to physical laws that can affect the human body. The most important of these deals with the increased pressure of the underwater environment. This pressure is measured in pounds exerted per square inch of space, or psi. The metric equivalent to psi is bar. Now, it's obvious to most of us that water has weight. In fact, a cubic foot of seawater weighs about 64 pounds, or 29 kilos. What is less obvious is that air also has weight. A column of air 1 inch by 1 inch stretching from sea level to the top of the atmosphere weighs 14.7 pounds, or 1 bar. Therefore, at sea level, we are under 14.7 psi, or 1 bar of pressure. This amount of pressure is referred to as 1 atmosphere of pressure. In metric, 1 atmosphere is equal to 1 bar of pressure. Water is far denser than air, and therefore far heavier. It takes only 33 feet, or 10 meters of seawater, to equal the 14.7 pounds, or 1 atmosphere of air. When a diver goes to 33 feet, or 10 meters, the surrounding water pressure is added to the atmospheric pressure to create a total of 29.4 psi, or 2 atmospheres, or 2 bar of pressure. As the diver descends, this pressure continues to increase at the rate of 1 atmosphere every 33 feet, or 10 meters. So at 66 feet, or 20 meters, the ambient pressure will be 3 atmospheres, 44.1 psi, or 3 bar. These principles of increasing pressure are explained by a law of physics called Boyle's law. As the pressure continues to increase, the volume of air continues to decrease. In order to equalize this increasing pressure, you must inject air until the volume is equal to the surrounding water pressure. This increasing pressure will affect air spaces in your body and equipment. Within the body, there are air spaces, primarily in the ears, sinuses, and lungs, which hold air. Ear squeeze is caused by increasing water pressure pushing against the eardrum, forcing it inward. By pinching off the nose and gently blowing, air will pass through the eustachian tube into the middle ear. As the water and air pressures are equalized, the eardrum returns to normal. Equalize on the surface before your dive and during the dive before discomfort occurs. If you feel a squeeze, ascend until the discomfort subsides, and try again to equalize. Your sinuses are also subject to squeezes. Usually, when divers equalize pressure in their ears, air will pass into the sinus cavities, equalizing them as well. However, certain illnesses, such as the common cold, will cause nasal membranes to swell, blocking the passage of air. You should simply avoid diving with blocked nasal or ear passages. Increasing pressure will also compress the air inside your mask, causing pressure on your face. To prevent this, exhale air from your nose into the mask so water and air pressure can be equalized. The lungs aren't really affected by increased pressure because the air delivery system is designed to deliver air equal to the surrounding pressure. However, when you fill your lungs at 2 atmospheres using scuba, the lungs fill to the same volume of air as at the surface, but the air is twice as dense. So at 33 feet or 10 meters, you are actually breathing in twice the amount of air as at the surface. This is the reason a diver's air supply is used up faster at depth, and a high-quality regulator is important. A great amount of scuba equipment has been designed to allow you to do this. Breathe. Just breathe. An activity that you do unconsciously day and night. However, underwater, you might very well become conscious of each breath, especially as a new diver. Since it's easier to get used to something you understand, let's take a look at the respiration process and how it's affected underwater. The air you breathe is a mixture of about 80% nitrogen and 20% oxygen. Oxygen is burned by the body to carry on the process of life. Carbon dioxide is a byproduct given off as a result of the body's use of this oxygen. Respiration is the process by which the blood exchanges carbon dioxide for oxygen. In normal respiration, the two gases are kept in constant balance. Imbalances can be caused by stress, fear, or an improperly maintained regulator. Your body reacts by causing you to breathe rapidly. This leads to fatigue and a feeling of breathlessness, which begins a dangerous cycle. This condition is called uncontrolled hyperventilation. By making sure that you're familiar with all your equipment, have a high-quality, well-maintained regulator, and by avoiding conditions for which you are unprepared, you can help avoid stress. Should you feel yourself hyperventilating, stop, think, relax, and breathe normally. Don't be afraid to end a dive should you feel unsafe or uncomfortable. Be aware of the signs of stress and hyperventilation, and be prepared to calm your body if these signs appear. Being a responsible citizen means being prepared to help someone in an emergency situation. Being a responsible diver is no different. In order to be prepared, SSI suggests enrolling in a React Right First Aid and CPR course and an SSI Stress and Rescue course. When in the water environment, you are exchanging the sights, sounds, and feelings of one world for those of another. The most pleasant of these sensations is this one: weightlessness. All objects have some degree of buoyancy, but we refer to them as being positively, negatively, or neutrally buoyant because of their weight in comparison to water. Let's see what this means to the diver. The human body is mostly water and is therefore neutrally buoyant. However, this will vary slightly depending on individual body makeup. When you dive, you add several pieces of equipment that affect your buoyancy. An exposure suit, which is made of closed-cell neoprene, is very light relative to water. Therefore, it tends to give you positive buoyancy and will make you float. To offset this buoyancy and make it easy to submerge, you will need to use a weight system as described in Section 1. If the weights are more negative than the wetsuit was positive, you will have negative buoyancy and will sink. If positive and negative buoyancy are offset, you will establish neutral buoyancy. With neutral buoyancy, you will float effortlessly, neither rising nor sinking unless you want to. Being able to establish neutral buoyancy is one of the most important skills in diving and depends on your being properly weighted. With all of your equipment on and the BC deflated, inhale. The water level should come to the midline of your mask. As you exhale, you should start to descend. By far the most important piece of the buoyancy puzzle is the buoyancy compensator, or BC. You'll want to invest in the highest quality BC that fits your budget. Consult with your SSI dealer or instructor. The BC has several uses. When inflated, it keeps the diver on the surface with the head well out of the water. This eliminates the need to tread water. Underwater, the BC becomes our primary comfort device. By either power or orally inflating, the diver can maintain neutral buoyancy, which is a major part of the fun. As you descend, the increasing water pressure causes the air in the BC to contract, decreasing your buoyancy. You must add air to the BC as you descend to maintain neutral buoyancy. The third use of the buoyancy compensator comes in our ascent to the surface. As you ascend, the air in your BC will expand, giving you an extra lift. You may need to vent off excess air to maintain a slow, easy rate of ascent. By going underwater, we are subjecting our senses to a new set of circumstances. In humans, the most important sense is vision, but our eyes are designed to work in air, not water. When light rays enter the cornea, they are refracted to a focal point in the eye called the retina. This process is what allows us to see clearly. When water touches the eye, light is refracted differently. It now focuses at a point behind the retina, causing blurred vision. Overcoming this problem is relatively simple. The mask traps a pocket of air around the eyes, allowing them to function in an air environment. When light rays enter a diving mask, they have traveled through the water, through the glass of the mask, through the air pocket around the eyes, and finally into the eyes and through the liquid inside. All these elements combine to have a magnifying effect on objects. All objects seem about 25% closer and 33% larger underwater. Water also has an effect on the physics of light, and therefore affects how you see color underwater. As you descend, the water absorbs the colors of the spectrum one at a time. Reds and oranges are absorbed within 30 feet or 9 meters. By 60 feet or 18 meters, the yellows and greens are gone, leaving everything with a bluish tinge. To restore color, you must bring a source of artificial light with you. A dive light is an excellent piece of equipment to take on every dive. Sound energy that originates in water travels about 4 times faster than sound in air. By banging on your cylinder with your diver's tool or other solid object, you will create a sound that will travel over long distances. This is the universal signal to get someone's attention. Be sure to respond when you hear this sound. In order to communicate, divers have developed a series of hand signals with universally accepted meanings. By far the most common of these is the OK sign. This can be used both as a question or a response. When your instructor or buddy gives the sign to you, they're asking if you're okay. When you give the signal back, you're saying, yes, I am okay. An extended palm signals others to stop. A thumb pointed up means going up, or pointed down means going down. Pointing to oneself, to others, or to objects means I, you, or it. A hand tipping back and forth means something is wrong, while tapping on the faceplate of your mask means look. By tapping your chest with a closed fist, you're saying, I'm low on air. A slashing motion across the throat means out of air, and pointing at your second stage means let's share air. A hand held with the palm up is a question, either where, what, or how, depending on the context. Cupping the hands or fingers to make a triangle means boat. A wavy motion with the hand means fish. By combining these signals, you can create very intelligible sentences making it easy to converse with your buddy underwater. As you become more experienced, you can add more signals to your vocabulary. Water conducts heat about 25 times faster than air. This means that your body will be radiating heat into the surrounding water faster than its ability to keep up. To minimize this heat loss and allow for proper absorption and elimination of gases in the respiration cycle, divers use exposure suits as described in the first section. The wetsuit traps a thin layer of water between the skin and the inner layer of the suit. The body quickly heats this water, and the neoprene insulates your body from the colder water outside. Other exposure suits are used depending on diving conditions. Care should be taken to avoid overheating while getting ready for a dive. Wearing a wetsuit in the sun, even for a short time, can cause body temperature to rise. Time your dressing to coincide with your buddies. Should you start to overheat, stand in the shade, open the suit, or enter the water. Maybe, someday soon, you'd like to learn more. In the Dive Control Specialist course, you'll learn more about how water affects light, sound, and heat, so you can maximize your enjoyment. We've seen what happens when we descend and breathe air at depth. Let's look at how Boyle's law affects the diver when he ascends and is subjected to decreasing pressure. As you ascend, the pressure decreases and the air in the lungs will expand. If unvented, the lungs filled at 2 atmospheres would have to expand to twice their volume before the diver surfaces. Therefore, 1 volume of air must be vented off through normal respiration. If it's not, then overexpansion and damage to the small sacs or alveoli of the lung may occur. Breathe all the time, and never hold your breath underwater while scuba diving. If overexpansion should occur, air escaping from the lungs can enter the bloodstream. The blood will then carry the bubbles of air through ever smaller arteries and capillaries, and eventually become lodged, blocking the flow of blood. This is called an air embolism. The worst place for an embolism to occur is in the brain. When the blood and oxygen supply to the brain is cut off, vital tissues begin to die. This is an immediate life-threatening situation. Symptoms of a brain embolism include dizziness and disorientation, with eventual unconsciousness. Although an air embolism is the most dangerous, a variety of other overexpansion problems can also occur. These include mediastinal emphysema, subcutaneous emphysema, and pneumothorax. The victim must immediately be transported to the nearest emergency medical facility. The treatment of lung expansion injuries may involve immediate recompression in a hyperbaric chamber. This will reduce the size of the bubble, allowing it to pass through the capillary, unblocking the flow of blood. While lung expansion accidents are quite serious, their prevention is quite simple. Simply breathe at all times while underwater. Under normal sea level pressures, nitrogen has little effect on the respiration process. It is not used by the body, nor does it cause any harm. As you descend, however, the total quantity of nitrogen molecules taken in goes up dramatically. Twice as much at 2 atmospheres, 3 times as much at 3 atmospheres, and so on. For reasons we do not fully understand, past a certain concentration, this nitrogen becomes narcotic. This leads to a condition known as nitrogen narcosis, or being narked. Symptoms of narcosis usually begin to show between 80 and 100 feet, or 24 to 30 meters, although both depths and symptoms may vary from diver to diver. A sense of euphoria and general well-being are common. As the diver descends deeper, there may be an inability to think clearly, or there may be a fixation on objects or ideas. As the effects of narcosis increase, most divers become dizzy and unable to perform simple motor or mental skills. They become a safety hazard to themselves and those around them. The cause of nitrogen narcosis may be obscure, but the cure is simple. Just ascend to a depth above that where the symptoms first appeared. The effects will dissipate almost instantaneously, with no after effects. Prevention is even simpler. it is not recommended that you exceed the 100-foot or 30-meter recreational diving depth without specialized deep diving training. There is another effect of nitrogen that is potentially more hazardous. This condition is called decompression sickness, or more famously, the bends. As you've learned, the blood picks up oxygen during respiration. The oxygen is used for fuel in exchange for carbon dioxide, which is created as a byproduct of burning the oxygen. Nitrogen is an inert gas and is not used by the body. As pressure increases, however, the diver comes under an effect of physics called Henry's law. Under pressure, gases can be forced into liquids in amounts equal to the ambient pressure. In other words, under 2 atmospheres of pressure, twice as much gas can be dissolved into a liquid as at sea level. At 3 atmospheres, 3 times as much. For the diver, this means that nitrogen is dissolved into the tissues of the body at a rate that increases with depth. This process requires time. As long as the nitrogen remains dissolved, it continues to have no effect on the body. But let's see what happens when the pressure is suddenly decreased. As the diver ascends, pressure continually decreases. As pressure decreases, the nitrogen that was dissolved in the tissues can no longer be held in solution. As such, it begins to come out of solution at a rate that is consistent with the amount of time a diver spent at a specific depth. As long as this nitrogen is allowed to come out of solution slowly, it is vented off through normal respiration and poses no threat to the diver. There can be a problem, however, when ambient pressure is reduced too fast. When this occurs, the dissolved nitrogen comes out of solution too quickly for normal respiration to vent off. Nitrogen that is released too quickly can form small bubbles in the tissues and blood. Depending on where these bubbles form, they can cause a variety of problems. Bubbles forming around the joints will cause local pain at the affected area due to the partial blockage of blood. If they're formed under the skin, itching and a rash are likely. More severe types of decompression sickness occur when the bubbles form around the spinal cord, in which case paralysis and loss of feeling may result. The bubbles can also be carried by the bloodstream and be lodged in the smaller capillaries of the brain. Dizziness, convulsions, and unconsciousness are common symptoms. Unlike air embolism, which usually completely blocks the blood flow with relatively large air bubbles, the nitrogen bubbles of the bends are tiny, creating a partial blockage. Except in the most severe cases, symptoms develop over time, from a few hours to a few days. Treatment for decompression sickness is recompression in a hyperbaric chamber, which will force the nitrogen bubbles back into solution. Pressure is then slowly relieved, so that the excess nitrogen can be vented off in normal respiration. For purposes of treatment, any diving accident, including lung expansion injuries, should be treated as decompression illness. First aid should be administered immediately. 1. Manage the ABCs of life support. 2. Provide 100% oxygen. 3. Contact the local emergency medical system and, if necessary, 4. Contact the diving medical professionals in your region. If any type of decompression illness is suspected, the victim should be transported to the nearest emergency medical facility immediately. Keep the phone numbers for your local emergency medical services in your SSI dive log. Learn more about accident management in the SSI Stress and Rescue course and React Right first aid training programs. While the consequences of the bends are not good, they can be minimized or prevented by monitoring your depth, time, and ascent rate. As we've said, the absorption of nitrogen is predictable, depending on how deep and for how long a diver has been down. Dive computers and your SSI dive tables are designed to calculate no decompression scuba dives. Dive computers calculate no decompression data automatically, while your SSI dive tables must be used manually to calculate no decompression data. We'll discuss how computers and the dive tables work in the next section. Begin your ascent while neutrally buoyant. Proper ascent procedures can help eliminate lung expansion accidents. As you ascend, Face your buddy and look toward the surface to help keep your airway open. The expanding air from your BC must be vented to prevent an uncontrolled ascent, so keep the inflator mechanism in the extended left hand. Your ascent rate should not be faster than 30 feet or 9 meters per minute, so monitor your timing device and depth gauge or your dive computer. Another safety procedure includes making a safety stop at 15 feet or 5 meters for 3 to 5 minutes on every dive. This will help eliminate some of the nitrogen you have absorbed at deeper depths. Once at the surface, it's very important to inflate your buoyancy compensator. Leave the mask on and either keep your second stage in place or switch to your snorkel. This will allow you to rest comfortably without water entering your nose or mouth. Strangely, most accidents occur on the surface after the dive. These could be completely avoided with an inflated BC and by knowing how to ditch the weight system if necessary. With proper monitoring of the instruments, the possibility of running out of air is unlikely. There are basically 4 options available should the diver run out of air. The one that is used depends on the situation. If the diver is far from the surface and a diving buddy is nearby, it may be preferable to do an air-sharing ascent. The person needing air gives the out of air and I want to share air signals. The donor may either give up his primary second stage, then breathe off his alternate air source, or he may give the needer, the person needing air, the alternate, and continue to breathe off the primary. Once the situation has stabilized, the buddy team begins a swimming ascent to the surface, maintaining constant contact. Positive buoyancy can be established to assist the ascent, but the buddies must be sure to ascend at the same rate. When the surface is reached, the BC should be immediately inflated, and the divers should be prepared to ditch their weights if necessary. An emergency swimming ascent is preferred if the surface is near and your buddy is far away. Begin by strongly kicking toward the surface. Stay relaxed and look up to keep your airway open and avoid overexpansion problems. Leave your second stage in your mouth and continue to try and breathe normally. On ascent, air in the scuba system may expand, possibly allowing the second stage to deliver air at shallower depths. Even if no air is taken in, exhale slightly on each try so that expanding air can be vented. Never hold your breath under any circumstances. Once on the surface, inflate your BC with the power inflator or orally if necessary. It does no good to reach the surface only to slide back underwater again. If you have any concerns about being able to stay on the surface, drop the weight system to maintain positive buoyancy. If your dive buddy is some distance away, and it's uncertain that a swimming ascent can be accomplished, it may be best to do an emergency buoyant ascent. Buoyant ascents are accomplished by establishing positive buoyancy by either dropping the weight system, inflating the BC, or both. To drop your belt, begin with your arms at your sides, then slide your hands up until they touch the belt. Move them forward until they reach the buckle. Hold the belt at arm's length away from the body and release. If you're using an integrated weight system with your BC, you must be aware of the proper release method for your particular model. However, the same concept applies. You must be able to identify and locate the release mechanism. Refer to your owner's manual for the proper procedure. Ditching the weight system will establish immediate positive buoyancy. If you need to slow your ascent, let air out of the BC and, if possible, flare the body when about 20 feet or 6 meters from the surface. Since the buoyant ascent is quicker than a normal ascent, the chances for embolism and decompression sickness are increased. Care should be taken to breathe at all times. Never hold your breath. Vent air from the BC and flare the body. There are also independent air systems that can be used in an emergency. These operate separately from the primary air source and provide the diver with enough air to make an ascent without relying on another diver. The size of the cylinder dictates the amount of air available. Diving is a wonderful experience. With just a few precautions, the diver can enter an entirely new world. With the proper knowledge, proper skills, proper equipment, and the proper experience, this unfamiliar world can offer the most positive experiences possible in inner space. Human beings have once again used knowledge as the key to enter this world. With knowledge in how water affects the human body, the diver can safely adapt to the underwater environment. As you've learned, divers' bodies will absorb nitrogen due to increased pressure when diving. You've also learned that the amount of nitrogen the body absorbs is dependent on how deep the diver dives and how much time the diver spends underwater. Planning and executing your dives using a dive computer and the SSI dive tables helps you calculate the amount of nitrogen your body will absorb on a dive based on the deepest depth you want to go and how long you want to stay underwater. Dive computers and the dive tables also allow you to make as many repetitive no-decompression dives per day as you would like, as long as you stay within their limits and the limits of your dive plan. For a better understanding of dive planning, let's take a closer look at the dive profile and how it relates to the SSI dive tables. The dive profile is a simple diagram used in conjunction with the dive tables to help you plan and log your dive throughout your diving day. SSI dive tables are based on U.S. Navy tables, which were designed to Navy specifications for Navy divers. However, Doppler ultrasound studies, which began in the late 1970s and are ongoing today, show that recreational divers should use the Navy dive tables more conservatively. These suggested Doppler time limits are reflected on the dive tables that you'll be using in this course. The first of these is the No Decompression Limits table, which we call Table 1. It has two functions. First, it shows divers how long they may stay at a certain depth without being affected by decompression sickness. This is done by figuring bottom time and depth. Depth is considered the deepest point reached during the dive. Bottom time is measured from the time you begin your descent to the time you begin your direct descent back to the surface. The far left vertical column of Table 1 shows diving depths in feet and meters, with the next column showing the Doppler no decompression bottom time limits for that depth. For example, the time limit for 60 feet or 18 meters is 50 minutes. Even staying within the limits of these tables or your dive computer cannot guarantee safety. Since every person is physically different, individual absorption rates will vary. Always dive the tables and your computer conservatively and never push the limits. The next function of Table 1 is to assign a group designation depending on how long a diver has been at a depth. Starting at the far left, find the deepest point of your dive. All numbers on the table are designed so that if a depth or time falls between listed numbers, it is rounded up to the next greater number. For instance, if you have been diving at 52 feet, you will read for 60 feet, or 18 meters. Now read across the table to find the time you have spent at this depth. If you have been diving for 36 minutes, you will round up to 40 minutes. Reading down from here, you will find the group designation for the dive. In this case, group designation G, so you are a G diver. The group designation becomes important as your diving day proceeds. Most divers don't make just one dive and stop. After your first dive, a certain amount of nitrogen remains dissolved in your body and will be vented continually from the respiratory system for 12 hours. This residual nitrogen must be taken into account in your repetitive dives. To do this, we use Table 2, the residual nitrogen timetable for repetitive air dives, which we refer to as the surface interval table. During the time you spend between dives, your body is constantly venting off residual nitrogen. Table 2 gives you credit for this time, which is called a surface interval. Realize that dives with a surface interval of under 10 minutes are considered one continuous dive. Surface intervals over 12 hours will constitute a new diving day, with your body having no residual nitrogen. At the top of Table 2, you will notice arrows descending from Table 1, which lead to the group designation. To the left of these letters are windows of time. These represent your surface interval. You are looking for the times in between which your interval lies. Remember that by reading for the next greater numbers, we came up with a reading of 60 feet or 18 meters for 40 minutes. This gave us a group designation of G. Let's assume that after the dive, you spent 1 hour and 30 minutes on the surface. Enter Table 2 at the G repetitive group and read to the left until you find the times in between which your surface interval lies. In this case, between 1 hour 16 minutes and 1 hour 59 minutes. Now, read down the column to the group designation at the bottom. We see here that by spending 1 1/2 hours on the surface, you have lowered your residual nitrogen group from G to E. So what does this mean? Let's say you will be going on a second dive to 40 feet or 12 meters. Your body still has an amount of residual nitrogen, so you will not be able to spend as much time at depth as you could on the first dive. In effect, your body has already spent time underwater before you even start the repetitive dive. This time is referred to as your residual time, or RT. To find the amount of your RT, we turn here to the residual times. Table 3 tells you the amount of time you must assume you've already spent at a given depth. Depths are listed here on the far left of the table. Once again, should a depth fall in between those listed, read for the next greater depth. Read across from your second dive depth of 40 feet or 12 meters to the E column. In the box, you see two numbers. The top number, 49, is the RT, or the residual nitrogen from your previous dive. The bottom number, 81, is the adjusted no decompression limit, or the maximum number of minutes you can spend on your second dive. Since the dive needs to be 81 minutes or less, let's plan your second dive for a conservative 40 minutes. This is called your actual time. Your AT is the actual amount of time you will spend underwater. In order to be able to figure our group designation at the end of the second dive, we'll need to add our actual time of 40 minutes to our residual time of 49 minutes to come up with our bottom time of 89 minutes. Our total time is the number we use when calculating our group designation. By returning to Table 1, we see that a total time of 89 minutes at 40 feet or 12 meters will necessitate reading for 100 minutes. This gives us a group designation of I. To plan a third dive, we return to Tables 2 and 3 and repeat the process again. By now, it should be very obvious that a reliable timing device and depth gauge are essential tools for every dive. To keep track of bottom time, group designations, and surface intervals, divers use what is called a dive profile. Let's work through another dive using a profile. On the first dive, we are diving to a depth of 58 feet or 17 meters, and will remain there for 28 minutes. The 28 is your bottom time, and since this is the first dive of the day, you have no residual nitrogen, so yours is 0. This leaves a total time of 28 minutes. If you check Table 1, you'll find that we have to read for 60 feet or 18 meters and 30 minutes. This means that after a 3-minute safety stop at 15 feet or 5 meters, we will return to the surface as an F diver. As we relax and eat, we will spend 2 hours and 30 minutes on the surface. By checking Table 2, the surface interval table, we see that this amount of time will lower us to a C diver. On our next dive, we will be diving a wreck located at 50 feet or 15 meters. By checking the repetitive dive depths on Table 3, we see that our RT is 21 minutes, and our adjusted no decompression limit is 49 minutes. This means the time we spend underwater cannot exceed 49 minutes. To be conservative, however, we will plan for a bottom time of 30 minutes. Upon surfacing, we add our bottom time of 30 minutes to our residual time of 21 minutes for a total time of 51 minutes. By checking Table 1, we see that a dive of 50 feet or 15 meters, with a total time of 51 minutes, must be rounded up to 60 minutes. You now have a group designation of H at the end of your second dive. Be aware that the tables take into account the ascent rate in their calculations. Always ascend no faster than 30 feet or 9 meters per minute. Diving computers keep accurate track of your diving parameters. They also advise you of the time to the end of the dive, warn of too rapid ascent rates, will automatically factor in surface intervals, and keep track of your maximum depths and bottom times. Owning and using a computer is highly recommended. However, the use of a computer requires adherence to the manufacturer's recommendations for use. Each computer offers different features and functions. Your local SSI dealer can help you find the right computer for you. Planning must be a part of any successful dive. This begins well before the dive starts when you choose a knowledgeable dive buddy and dive operator. Remember that on a charter boat, the dive leader's word is law concerning the dive parameters. Your safety and enjoyment are his primary concern and responsibility. You will be briefed upon these parameters, which may include the depth of the dive, your minimum air requirement, usually 500 psi or 35 bars, direction and layout of the dive site, entry and exit procedures, and check-in and check-out procedures. Use the information from this briefing to create your own personal dive plan. You and your buddy must decide if you are mentally ready for the dive and if your skill level is adequate for the dive site. If you're uncomfortable with the plan, adjust the dive to a shallower depth or shorter time limit. You should dive at your own level and not feel pressured to dive at the level of the group. If you're diving with a new buddy, you may want to discuss more details about the dive, so you can familiarize yourself with each other's equipment, diving styles, and training methods. Some of the topics you may want to discuss include your equipment configuration, what type of backup and emergency equipment you have, whether you're using a computer, the basic hand signals, and emergency skills such as the preferred method for air-sharing ascents. To be a responsible diver, you'll need to know how to make a dive plan and stick to it. Only you can be responsible for your own safety and enjoyment. It's very important that buddies time their dressing so they're ready at the same time. There's nothing more uncomfortable than waiting around in a wetsuit for your partner to get dressed. The dive leader sets the procedures for entering the water. In a drift dive, where everyone drifts with the current, the entire group will usually enter together. On an anchor dive, buddy teams are usually allowed to enter after they've checked out with the dive leader. Before you enter, do one last visual check of your equipment. Make sure there are no unhooked straps or tangled hoses and that your air is on. If you'll be using a compass, take a heading so you'll be able to track your general direction. Make sure your buddy is okay and clear of the deck before you enter. Once in the water, do one last check to make sure no equipment was jarred on entry. You may need to swim a distance to reach your descent point. Do this face down with either the second stage or snorkel in your mouth. Remember to swim into the current. Once you're ready, go ahead and descend. Descend at the same rate while facing each other, preferably down a descent line or anchor line. This will allow you to descend at the same pace without drifting from the boat. One buddy may take longer to clear ears or may need an equipment adjustment. Be ready to offer assistance if it's asked for. As you descend, look down and adjust your buoyancy to neutral before reaching the bottom. This will prevent a heavy crash landing and avoid possible damage to the environment. It is possible to become disoriented underwater, so check your direction with the compass before heading off, or note your surroundings for landmarks that can aid you in natural navigation. Stay within the area outlined by the dive leader. If you're diving on a reef, there will usually be a ridge of coral with either sand on both sides or sand on one side and a drop-off on the other. By staying beside the coral or near the drop-off, you'll see the most life, and it'll make it easier for you to navigate. If you begin the dive with the reef on your right side, all you'll need to do is turn around so the reef is on your left side on the way back. Natural navigation techniques such as this will help make it easier to find your way back to the boat. Remember to monitor your information system continually for depth, air pressure, and time. You must be back on the boat with at least 500 psi or 35 bar of air in your cylinder. When you have reached either your minimum air pressure or your time limit, it's time to head back. Confirm your direction before heading back. Don't assume you know which way to go. You're not used to this three-dimensional world, and it's possible to confuse directions. Use landmarks and your compass to aid in navigation. If you should become lost, you'll need to surface and check your direction. When you reach the exit point, begin the ascent together. Monitor your ascent rate and maintain it at 30 feet or 9 meters per minute or less. If you're using a computer, pay attention and follow its messages. Maintain close contact and stay together. Remember, it's recommended to make a 3 to 5 minute safety stop at 5 meters or 15 feet after every dive. This additional stop will help you off-gas excess nitrogen. Exit according to the dive leader's instructions, but in any case, be sure to stay clear of the boat, dive platform, and any divers who are exiting. Once on board, be sure to check back in. If you're making another dive, go ahead and get ready for it, even though it'll be some time before you get in again. When you place the regulator on a new cylinder, check to make sure you haven't accidentally picked out an empty one. This doesn't happen very often on the first dive, but it may before the second, with so many empty cylinders on board. Be sure to store your equipment so that it's out of everyone's way and nothing gets lost. During your surface interval, be sure to calculate your no decompression limits for the next dive. You'll need to know your bottom time for the last dive and your planned surface interval, so remember to note both. This is another advantage of computers. They keep track of this information for you, and they help you plan additional dives based on your past dives that day. Planning is important to having fun diving. By knowing how to use basic planning tools, you can execute great dives. Earth is a strange name for this planet. Earth means land, soil, the black dirt of farms and the dryness of deserts. But 78% of the Earth is covered by water. This is not the planet Earth. This is the planet Oceania. The oceans are very much responsible for the continuation of all life everywhere. About 85% of the water on the planet is located here. Another 12% is locked into ice at the poles. Only a tiny, precious 3% is available as fresh water. There are many environments available for diving, all different, but in many ways much the same. Let's take a look at some of these, and the conditions you can expect from them. We will begin here, with the great Mother Ocean. The oceans have the greatest variation of water conditions and movement. All conditions found in fresh water are but a smaller reflection of those found here. To understand the oceans and water conditions, we must first understand the mechanics of water movement. The most dramatic of these mechanics is the movement of the tides. Tides are caused by the gravitational pull of the moon upon the water of the ocean. This forms a bulge in the water. As the Earth turns and the moon orbits, this bulge moves across the face of the planet. High tides are in the areas currently affected by this bulge and directly on the other side of the Earth due to the Earth's rotation. Low tides are in the areas in which the water has literally been pulled away. As the movement of the moon and the spin of the Earth are measurable and predictable, high and low tides are also predictable and are published in tidal tables for different areas of the world. Divers must be aware of tides and their accompanying tidal currents. Currents are the flow of water created by the movements of the tidal bulge across the face of the planet. When the flow is toward land, the current is referred to as a flood current. When away from land, it is an ebb current. During the time when the currents are changing direction, there is no flow. This is called the slack time. When diving in areas with large tidal changes and/or powerful tidal currents, it is wise to check the published times of the flood and ebb. If not careful, a diver who enters the water during slack time may face a long swim to shore against an ebb current. Also of interest to divers are the actions of waves. Waves can be formed by seismic or other geologic activity, but the most common are those formed by wind. Waves are created by the wind moving across the water. The wave will continue to grow according to how hard and long the wind blows. It also depends on the uninterrupted distance that the wind can push against the water. This is called the fetch. High winds, blowing for extended time over a long fetch, can form truly tremendous waves. Despite the fact that the water in waves appears to move forward, it does so only slightly. It is not the water, but the energy created that is moving forward. The water is moving in a circle as energy waves pass through. This concept can be demonstrated with a length of rope. By flicking the wrist, a wave of energy is sent through the rope. The energy travels down the length and exits the end, but the rope goes nowhere. When energy is allowed to travel a certain distance, it sets up a regular wave pattern. This steady pattern creates predictable wave sets known as C. When traveling in open water, you will notice that the rise and fall of a boat has a certain rhythm. This is caused by the area's C. On occasion, wave energy will enter an area from different directions. This creates a rough, choppy surface known as confused C. When the energy in the wave causes the crest to start moving faster than the base, the wave grows taller, and when the front of the wave gets too steep, the waves break along a surf line. This is what happens when waves approach shore. But the diver can also become aware of submerged sandbars and reefs if there is a surf line located offshore. During high winds, the crest of the wave can literally be blown off the base. The wave may also become so large that it will collapse under the force of gravity. In either case, you will get a broken water condition offshore, which will create what are called whitecaps. Waves affect only the surface waters to a relatively shallow depth. As such, they will usually affect the diver only on entries and exits. When entering from shore, the primary problem is to avoid being knocked down or buffeted by waves in the surf zone. The large volume of water falling on top of the diver can cause the loss of equipment, can knock the regulator out of the mouth, and can even injure a diver. Surf conditions will vary widely throughout the world. There is no one best way to enter. One way to enter is to walk into the water until about waist to chest deep. Then, using your buddy for assistance, put the regulator in your mouth and your fins on. When boat diving in high waves, the trick is to submerge beneath the wave effect, or surge, as quickly as possible. So plan your entrance as near to the descent point as possible. In these conditions, it is preferable to have a stable descent line. This will prevent buddies from becoming separated. Exiting with waves is, in some ways, easier than entering. For a beach exit, simply swim in through the surf zone on the surface using the movement of the water to propel you. With boat diving, your exit in heavy waves is somewhat more complicated. Your main problem will be to avoid the boat hull or dive platform striking you as you attempt to get on board. Boat exits will vary based on your captain's preference and the diving conditions. Shore divers should also be aware of localized currents when planning entries and exits. Localized currents are usually one of two types. Longshore currents are created when waves come on shore along a stretch of straight beach line. Rip currents are really the backwash of the wave action as their energy is expended on shore. As the water moves back out to sea after striking land, the current is created along lines of least resistance, such as a channel in the sand or rocks. Boat divers should also be aware of currents. The direction of the flow can easily be observed by the direction the boat moves away from the anchor. You should always begin the dive into the current or in the direction of the anchor. By diving into the current at the beginning of the dive, you can let the current carry you back to the boat at the end, when you are tired. Because it is denser, cold water has a tendency to sink under warmer water, creating distinct layers of temperature separated by a layer of changing temperatures. This layer is called the thermocline, and is found wherever there are two layers of different temperatures. The depth and the temperature of the water at that depth should be kept in mind when preparing for a dive. Wearing proper thermal protection for water at surface temperature does not mean you will be able to penetrate the thermocline and remain at deeper depths. The water environment, whether it is a lake or ocean, is beautiful and inspiring, but it can also be somewhat dangerous. Before diving in a new water environment, you should seek out advice or training from an SSI dealer. Many offer specialty courses that are designed to teach you more about local diving environments. This course is only an overview and is not designed to make you an expert in all aspects of water movement. The waters of the world hold the greatest variety and the greatest concentration of life anywhere on Earth. If it is these life forms that you have come to see, you will be surrounded by a multitude of life quite unlike any you have previously experienced. Depending on where you dive, whether Pacific kelp forests, Caribbean reefs, or local lakes, these life forms can be quite different. However, the greatest concentration will always be where the food chain is the most developed. In the warmer waters of the tropical latitudes, the chain begins around the coral reef. Despite its rock-like appearance, the coral is very much alive. The hard exterior is home and protection for the animal that lives within. The coral has been slowly building its vast reefs for millions of years to create the largest structures ever built by living creatures. For a given type of coral, the oldest and largest are usually found in the deepest water. Coral colonies at this depth have had the opportunity to grow together, forming a continuous structure. The midwater reef, found in waters from 20 to 40 feet or 6 to 12 meters, represent a middle development stage. Individual colonies have grown together, but have not yet combined. In the waters from 15 feet, or from 5 meters to the surface, are the newest structures. Young individual coral colonies are found at this depth. The diver must exercise extreme care around these formations. Should you carelessly break off a delicate piece with your cylinder or fin, you have destroyed in seconds the work of perhaps dozens or hundreds of years. The hard corals are quite common, and you will enjoy your dive more if you are able to identify them. Some of the most common hard corals on the reef are elkhorn, staghorn coral, brain coral, and lettuce leaf coral. The name of this coral will become obvious if you accidentally touch it. This is fire coral, and it is covered by stingers called nematocysts. Should these come in contact with bare skin, they can sting rather severely. be aware of and avoid fire coral. Another reason to be careful is that the skeletal structure of hard corals are very sharp and abrasive, so do not touch or swim near the coral. Remember, touching the coral will hurt it worse than it hurts you. Actually, not all corals are hard. One of the most beautiful, soft Gorgonian corals is the sea fan. These can often be seen waving in the surge in shallower waters. In deeper waters, these can get huge, some over 10 feet across. While diving on the coral reef, you are likely to encounter some of the more common inhabitants. Some of the most common and beautiful are the varieties of angelfish. The gray angel is easily identified by its color markings of gray and white, while the French angel has black and yellow markings. The small squirrelfish is found hiding underneath overhangs and in small caves. The snapper family is well represented by the yellowtail, dog, and gray snappers. One of the most numerous and common fish on the reef is the grunt. Shown here are the French and blue-striped grunt. Other fish are also quite numerous. Here we see the sergeant major. Usually found swimming in large schools are the brilliant blue chromis. The damselfish are among the most interesting fish on the reef. Although only a few centimeters long, this species will stake out a claim and defend it against anything. The spotfin and banded butterfly fish mate for life and are usually found swimming in pairs, while the parrotfish can be found feeding on the coral. This fish uses its beak to break off pieces of coral, which it then grinds to get at the animal inside. The hard, ground-off exterior is left as sand. Popular food sources are the crustaceans. The spiny lobsters found hiding in the cracks and crevices of the reef. Obviously, more fish inhabit the reef than can be covered here. The study of these can be a lifelong hobby and is one of the great joys of reef diving. Keeping a list of fish or invertebrates observed is an enjoyable facet of logging your dives. What the coral reef is to the warmer waters, the kelp forest and rock beds are to the colder waters. They offer protection and the beginnings of a food chain for the creatures that inhabit these waters. Although not as colorful, colder waters harbor a more intense concentration of sea life. They also have the added excitement of marine mammals, sea lions, seals, and even whales. Kelp is a very long plant that grows from the seabed to the surface in areas along the California coast, Alaska, the islands of Japan, and the western coast of South America. Kelp forests offer a very exciting diving experience. The fish life is very abundant. Along the California coast, the most commonly seen is the bright Garibaldi. While the oceans are abundantly populated, the inland diver should not feel the least bit slighted when it comes to great dive locations. Freshwater offers many great dive experiences. Lakes, rivers, and freshwater springs all offer their own variety of aquatic life, with the food chain usually forming around floating or rooted plants. Let's quickly dispose of the notion of dangerous marine animals. These images make a good story, but are pure Hollywood. We will discuss some of the animals capable of inflicting harm. There are basically two ways to be injured by a marine animal: aggressively or defensively. Marine animals will respond aggressively in one of two scenarios. Either they sense they are being threatened, or they sense the object of their aggression is some form of food. Defensive injuries are inflicted by animals that normally ignore the diver unless disturbed. Such injuries are usually the result of an accident. The diver brushes against a hidden creature that stings. Care is required to prevent such injuries. Of those creatures capable of aggressive injury, by far the most famous is the shark. The shark is really a rather cautious scavenger, usually attacking defenseless or wounded fish. The shark will almost always swim away at the first sign of defense from its intended victim. It is truly rare for very experienced divers to even see a shark in non-tropical waters. In fact, divers spend a lot of time and money on special shark dives to have the chance to see a shark. Luckily, the most common sharks are also the least aggressive. These include the nurse shark and blue shark. The most aggressive and more famous sharks are relatively rare. These include the hammerhead, mako, tiger, and great white sharks. However, all sharks, although unpredictable, should be treated with respect, and extra care should be exercised when spearfishing in any area known to be inhabited by sharks. A shark will show signs of aggression long before it commences an attack, so if you ever encounter an aggressive or agitated shark, leave the water immediately. Even less deserving of its reputation is the barracuda. While the fish does have a fearsome look, it is really quite gentle. They have unnerved more than one diver by simply following them about, but they are merely curious. Barracudas are attracted to dead fish when spearfishing and to shiny metal objects. Barracuda are quite common in warmer waters, so avoid diving with shiny metal objects in vulnerable spots. The moray eel is a shy and reclusive creature. Hiding in crevices of the reef, the moray goes to great lengths to avoid confrontation. However, when it becomes trapped in a hole and forced to its limits, it is capable of biting viciously. Never tease or molest a moray, and never put your hand in a dark, blind crevice. The ray family is also common in areas that divers frequent. The large free-swimming rays like the manta and eagle rays are among the most beautiful of all sea creatures. It is a lucky diver who gets to see either one. But the bottom rays are of greater concern to the diver. The long tail of the stingray has a barbed, poisonous stinger that can inflict a serious wound. The diver should be careful when settling down onto sandy areas or when wading through sandy water, as the ray buries itself under the sand with only its eyes exposed. Sculpins are found in all warmer waters and are also common along the U.S. Pacific coast. Care should be taken to avoid the sculpin, for it is a master of camouflage and can disguise itself as part of the rock. If touched, it will inject poison through its dorsal fins. Other fish to avoid include the lion or zebrafish, native to the South Pacific. These beauties also inject a painful poison through their dorsal fins. Any fish that seems utterly fearless in the water usually has a reason to be. It is a good idea never to touch anything of which you are unsure. The most dangerous of the poison fish is the stonefish, native to the South Pacific and Indian Oceans. As with the sculpin, the stonefish lies camouflaged in rocky areas on the bottom. There are many jellyfish that are capable of stinging, but only a few will be of concern to you. These stings have varying degrees of discomfort. Most inflict only minor and temporary irritation. However, a few are capable of more serious injury. The Portuguese man-of-war floats on the surface with its tentacles reaching 10 feet or 3 meters underwater. Look up while surfacing to avoid swimming into its tentacles. By far the most dangerous jellyfish is the sea wasp. Although rare, they will sometimes enter an area in large groups. It is obviously best to stay out of the water on such occasions. Although not poisonous, the spiny sea urchin can be a source of irritation to divers. The spines of the urchin are hollow, brittle, and very sharp. Should they become embedded in the skin, they will break off. The body will eventually reject or dissolve the embedded spine. Since most poisons are protein-based, first aid includes the application of hot water or a commercial sting solution. Be sure to clean the injury with water and apply antiseptic in order to avoid infection. Consult a physician for any stings that cause you great pain or discomfort. The underwater world is alive with sights, sounds, and sensations to delight the mind. Most of the life here seems to have no other purpose than to please the visitor. But you should remember that these creatures are wild animals and will protect themselves if they feel threatened. Enter this world with the awe and respect it deserves, and above all, strive to leave it in its pristine state. Do not needlessly take game or collect life forms for decoration. These creatures are far more beautiful in their natural state. Also realize that the animal attractions at most famous dive destinations have been tamed through years of work and training. Do not assume that all animals can be touched, petted, or fed as these are. Welcome to the planet Oceania. But please remember, you are the guest in this wonderful world. Well, you've learned a lot lately, all about basic scuba skills, physics, pressure, and dive planning. But there are a few things you haven't learned. A, how to complete your open water training dives. B, what do you do to start your adventure? And C, what are your continuing education options after you're certified? You have many options for completing your open water training dives, but regardless of which way you choose, you'll have a great time. Your SSI dealer has scheduled many dates and times for you to complete your open water training locally, which may include locations such as lakes, quarries, or the coast. This is the favorite option if you prefer to complete the entire course with the same instructor. Your SSI dealer may also have several independent and group dive trips scheduled to exotic locations for you to complete your dives. If you choose not to complete your open water training dives with your local SSI dealer, your instructor can refer you through the Universal Referral Network to another instructor at the location you plan to go. The Universal Referral Program was built to help traveling divers get professional, high-quality scuba training conveniently throughout the world. Your SSI dealer will provide you with the proper paperwork and assistance locating a Universal Referral resort. Refer to your SSI Open Water Diver Manual or www.universalreferral.com for a list of other agencies that participate in the Universal Referral Program and what you will need to complete for your referral. After you complete your Open Water Diver certification, you may be eligible to receive college credits for your SSI certification in the United States. Consult your SSI dealer for more information. Your adventure as an SSI open water diver is just beginning, and your options are unlimited. You can go diving in the crystal blue waters of the Caribbean, explore the beauty of the Red Sea, or experience the majesty of the Pacific kelp beds. It's up to you, and your SSI dealer is there to help lead the way. Your SSI dealer takes pride in providing every service you will need as a diver, not only to meet your current needs, but to meet your future needs as you log more dives and gain experience. Such services include equipment maintenance, travel, up-to-date information on equipment, and continuing education courses. Anywhere there is water, there is diving. Local diving offers you the opportunity to learn more about your region, gain valuable experience, and explore continuing education opportunities such as dry suit and wreck diving. Local diving is also very economical. Diving is also a great family activity. Organizations such as the Scuba Rangers are specifically designed to help children ages 8 and up to get involved in scuba diving and experience the fun that scuba diving offers with the guidance of specially trained Scuba Rangers leaders. Dive clubs offer you many different opportunities to expand your diving horizons, meet new people, stay active in the diving community, and continue your diving education. Meetings may be monthly, bi-monthly, or even weekly, and include various water-oriented activities with other divers like yourself. As we've discussed, continuing your diving education is not only important, but it's easy with the help of your SSI dealer. The best way is to choose and enroll in an SSI specialty course that you're interested in. You can enroll in as many or as few as you'd like, but no matter what you do, you will gain experience and recognition for doing what you want to do. SSI believes it should be your choice to take the courses you want to in order to meet your personal dive education needs. That is why the SSI continuing education system is menu-based. You can choose from a variety of different courses from night diving to diver stress and rescue. Your SSI dealer has a complete list of specialty courses available for you. While learning is an integral part of continuing your education, so is applying what you have learned through diving experience. That is why each SSI diver rating has a training requirement which you complete by taking specialties, and an experience requirement which you complete by doing what you want to do most. Dive. To help you meet your diving goals, the SSI continuing education system has been built to let you take it at your pace. You can learn the academics when and where you choose to, and gain the experience by applying what you've learned while diving. You can become a Level 2 specialty diver by completing 2 specialty courses of your choice and logging 12 dives. Add only 2 more specialty courses and 12 more dives, and you qualify for the Level 3 Advanced Open Water Diver. Because you put your education and skills to work diving in the real world, the training plus experience requirements make you a truly advanced diver. After that is the sought-after Level 4 SSI Master Diver rating. All you have to do is log 26 more dives and complete the SSI Divers Stress and Rescue course. Your SSI Specialty and Advanced Certification cards are your ticket to specialized dives around the world. They are your proof of your qualifications. Have you ever wanted to assist in scuba classes or lead other divers on underwater adventures? Or do you simply want to gain the knowledge and skills of a dive leader? If so, the SSI Dive Control Specialist course is a great way to get involved in dive leadership and is also your gateway to becoming an SSI open water instructor. SSI instructors work all over the world in dive schools, on cruise ships, and in exotic locations doing what they love to do: dive. Even if you choose not to take specialty courses or follow a path of dive leadership, SSI believes you should be recognized for your diving experience. The SSI Levels of Experience program gives you the opportunity to be recognized for the experience you gain by diving. When you complete your open water diver course, you're a Level 1 diver. To reach Level 2, all you have to do is log a total of 12 dives. Log 12 more dives, and you are a Level 3 diver. It's that easy. Your SSI dealer will apply a verification sticker to your certification card and dive log to indicate your new levels as you reach them, or you can order a new card that indicates your new level and current amount of logged dives. There are certain milestones that can be reached in any sport. Scuba diving is no different. This is why SSI offers levels of recognition that can be earned for major milestones achieved in diving. These levels of recognition are Level 5, the Century Diver, which consists of at least 100 logged dives. Level 9, the Gold 500 Diver with 500 or more logged dives. And Level 10, the Platinum 1000 Diver with 1,000 or more logged dives. And let's not forget the most elite diver rating available, the Platinum Pro 5000 Diver. As you can imagine, Platinum Pro 5000 divers are some of the most dedicated water explorers in the sport, each sharing the same qualities: love of adventure, passion for diving, and commitment to the water. Remember, keep diving, and you too can be a Platinum Pro 5000 diver and join the ranks of diving pioneers like Jacques Cousteau. After talking about the multitude of choices you have and the directions you can take as an SSI diver, you can see the importance of recording all of your training, experience, and recognition. Your SSI Total Dive Log has been specifically designed to allow you to do this, and it's an integral part of your total diving system. Your dive log is just as important as your certification cards. In fact, many dive resorts, dive boats, and dive schools require you to have a dive log in addition to your certification cards, so they can verify your training and experience. It's highly recommended to keep your dive log up to date and accurate. You never know when you'll need the valuable information it contains. You've entered into a spectacular and beautiful new world, the world of inner space. And once again, we would like to say welcome. We, along with your SSI dealer and instructor, hope you've had as much fun as we've had throughout this course, and invite you to continue your education with us.